6 p.m. here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let us begin with the headlines. South Korea's ruling party holds its national convention to elect 6 leadership posts. President Park Geun-hye also attends the event to remind Saenuri lawmakers of the need to reinvent the party from within to spur positive change for the nation. The South Korean ambassador to China meets with Beijing's special representative for the Korean Peninsula over THAAD. It's the first time that Seoul uses an official diplomatic channel to state its position to Beijing over the missile defense upgrade. Sweltering conditions are gripping the nation, but astronomical electricity bills are more dreaded in Korea due to its progressive billing system, a practice many consider unfair as it doesn't apply to companies or registered business users. The Saenuri Party's national convention is currently underway in southern Seoul. This is the day when the country's ruling party chooses a new leadership, who many hope will be able to successfully steer the party through the challenges it faces today. Let's get the latest from our senior political correspondent Park Ji-won, who is standing by at the convention where it's hot figuratively and physically as well. Ji-won, give us the updates.
Well, Daniel, as of now, candidates running for the party chairmanship and the Supreme Council all finished their campaign speeches. And about an hour ago, the voting started with the roughly 9,000 delegates present here, where their votes will be added to the ones already cast by nearly 70,000 eligible voters at 252 polling stations around the country on Sunday, August 7th. At today's convention, the party will elect 1 chairman and 4 new members of its Supreme Council, the party's main decision-making body. And for the first time ever, they will also elect 1 representative of the younger generation for a post in the Supreme Council, with only those under the age of 45 being eligible for the position.
So, Ji-won, the results could come out as early as 7 p.m. this evening. Any predictions or surefire winners?
Well, Daniel, it's rather difficult to answer as of now because 3 of the candidates for party leader are considered strong contenders, who are former presidential secretary Lee Jeong-hyun, former maritime minister and 5-term lawmaker Lee Ju-young, and 4-term lawmaker Ju Ho-young, who represents a faction that puts more distance from President Park Geun-hye. And as you mentioned, the results are expected to come out as early as 7 p.m. And that's all I have for now, and I will bring you more updates in our later newscast. Back to you, Daniel.
That's our political correspondent Park Ji-won with the latest. We'll turn to her for the later updates in our later newscast. Moving on, President Park Geun-hye also attended the ruling party convention, as she has always done before and since taking office. She asked the candidates to set a new vision for the future and lead the initiative to overhaul the party.
새로운 변화와 화합을 이루어 국민들에게 신뢰와 믿음을 줄 수 있는 정당으로 거듭나야 합니다. 분열과 갈등을 야기하는 정치도 끝내야 합니다. 저는 이러한 정치의 변화를 이뤄내는 것이야말로 새누리당에게 주어진 소명이라고 믿습니다. 이를 위해서는 우리 당부터 새롭게 거듭나야만 합니다.
She reiterated THAAD deployment is an inevitable measure to protect the country from North Korea's nuclear and missile aggression, while pointing out the opposition should abstain from voicing unreasonable criticism without offering an alternative. She also vowed to end Pyongyang's provocations and paved the way for a peaceful reunification on the Korean peninsula during the last year and a half of her term. South Korea switches over from a rather passive approach in dealing with China's continued complaints and opposition to a THAAD missile defense upgrade. According to our Connie Kim, Seoul's senior official held talks with a high-level Chinese government officials to explain South Korea's unchanged stance over the THAAD deployment.
South Korea's top diplomat in Beijing has clarified Seoul's stance on the THAAD missile defense system to China's special representative for the Korean Peninsula. South Korea's ambassador to China, Kim Jang-soo, and China's top nuclear envoy, Woo Da-wei's meeting marks the first time the South Korean government has delivered its position to Beijing through an official diplomatic channel since the THAAD deployment to South Korea was confirmed last month.
The two have exchanged views on North Korea's missile launch and the situation on the Korean peninsula. China, on its side, has reiterated its stance on the deployment of the THAAD battery to South Korea.
Beijing has long been against the deployment of THAAD to South Korea, citing it'll undermine regional stability and Chinese security interests. And since the announcement of the site in South Korea where THAAD is expected to be stationed, Beijing has seemingly started a backlash on South Korea's travel and entertainment industries, while staying reluctant to punish Pyongyang for its continuing missile provocations. Ambassador Kim's move is being seen as a more active approach by the South Korean government to deal with China's intensifying criticism, as opposed to its earlier defensive mode. It also appears to be a shift away from the parliamentary diplomacy opted by 6 South Korean lawmakers of the main opposition party as they travel to Beijing this week. However, despite South Korea's diplomatic efforts to ease tensions with China, Beijing doesn't seem to be quelling its strong stance against the THAAD deployment. Chinese experts who have been in the forefront of raising their voice against THAAD have reportedly emphasized the problems of the system's radar. South Korean opposition lawmakers on their side are said to have explained how the two nations should resolve this difficult situation together. The two sides have reportedly exchanged views on improving bilateral relations, but polarized views over the THAAD deployment are likely to continue for the time being, with Seoul's foreign ministry saying it'll continue government-level talks with Beijing over the anti-missile defense system. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Seoul's Air Force is planning to bring in dozens of air-to-ground guided missiles this year to bolster its defenses against North Korea. According to ministry officials on Tuesday, the missiles, which can be carried by the country's existing fleet of F-15K fighter jets, will be able to strike Pyongyang from Daejeon, some 160 kilometers south of Seoul. The U.S. recently approved the export of military GPS receivers that can be attached to the planes that are not affected by North Korean GPS jamming. The German-made Taurus missiles are scheduled to be brought in by November and will be a key asset in South Korea's kill chain system designed to carry out a preemptive strike on the regime's weapons. Consumers worried about the high cost of air conditioning have called for reforms to the country's electricity billing system here in South Korea, but the government has indicated that could be difficult, pointing out the scheme isn't likely to change anytime soon. Woo Jung-hee has the details.
The head of the Trade Ministry's Energy and Resources Office told reporters on Tuesday that reform of the current electricity billing scheme could produce an unfair system, as people who use less electricity will have to pay more and people who use more will have to pay less. He said the government cannot adopt a lower price for electricity usage and also encourage greater use, as the nation's electricity usage is already at its peak due to the sweltering heat. Households are divided into 6 groups depending on the amount of electricity usage, and the unit price becomes greater as consumers use more electricity. People who use the most electricity, or over 500 kilowatt hours, pay almost 12 times more than those who use the least electricity, or less than 100 kilowatt hours. Consumers have also said the progressive billing system is unfair because it only applies to households, not to companies or those registered as businesses. Experts agree with consumers, saying that the current cumulative scheme is outdated. It was first adopted in the midst of the 1970s after the oil crisis in order to cut power consumption by imposing higher rates on heavy users and to protect low-income families who use less electricity. But with the increase in electronic appliances these days, people's electricity usage has generally increased across the board.
The current progressive billing system is ineffective because households' electricity usage has risen continuously. It would be better to divide consumers into 3 to 4 groups instead of 6.
The expert added that the price difference between the low-use group and the high-use group is too extreme, at 12 times, and called for the difference to be lower to just 2 to 3 times as much. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
It can't rain gold, silver, or bronze all the time. Team Korea had a bit of a dry spell on Monday. The nation saw a string of disappointments from projected medalists in a number of different fields, though. Kwon Jang-ho has the latest from the Rio Games.
For Team Korea, Day 3 of the Rio Olympics could go down as a day to forget. After witnessing some unexpected losses earlier in the day, the nation was holding out hope for swimmer Kim Seoyoung. While Kim had performed well in Rio so far, she finished 12th in the women's 200-meter individual medley, which means she failed to make the cut for the finals. The biggest upset of the day came when top-ranked archer Kim Woo-jin crashed out in the second round of the men's individual event, 6-2. Despite setting a world record in the ranking round and snagging an impressive gold in the men's team event, Kim's competitive action in Brazil ended here. Also knocked out of the Olympics on Monday were two of Korea's rising judo stars. Competing in the 73-kilogram category, world number 1 An Chang-lim lost to his Belgian opponent by half a point in the round of 16. And in the women's 57-kilogram class, another gold medal favorite, Kim Jan-di, suffered a defeat to a tough rival from Brazil. But unexpected eliminations and disappointments were evident not only in Team Korea, but also in other delegations. World number 1 Novak Djokovic was knocked out of the singles and doubles tennis tournaments, as well as the Williams sisters, who were also defeated in the doubles. Andy Murray and his brother were another casualty of the doubles. And even home Seoul is not helping the Brazilian football team, who cannot seem to find a win after 2 goalless draws against South Africa and Iraq. They face an embarrassing early exit if they cannot beat Denmark on Wednesday. Kwon Jang-woo, Arirang News.
While the focus of the sporting world is on the ongoing Summer Games, Korea has one eye on the next Olympics, to be hosted in the alpine town of PyeongChang. The organizers of the 2018 Winter Games are busy promoting the event in Brazil. Shin Se-min files this report from Rio.
Connecting the passion brought on by the Rio Olympics to the upcoming PyeongChang 2018 Winter Games. That's what Korea's Winter Games organizers, the Korean Tourism Organization, and the Tourism Ministry are hoping for at the moment while in Rio.
The distance and 12 hours time difference means nothing to us, because the Olympic Games are the very festival where people across the globe meet and build friendship regardless of distance between countries, location, religion, or race.
Time is of essence for the PyeongChang Organizing Committee, with less than 550 days to go until hosting the next Winter Games.
The PyeongChang 2018 house located on Copacabana Beach has brought a piece of the next Olympic host city to Rio. And thanks to Korea's cutting-edge technology, visitors can get a first look at the silver snow-covered city of the next Winter Olympics.
Offering an opportunity to try out winter sports like ski jumping through a 4-dimensional virtual reality simulator, visitors can feel a step closer to the alpine city while being under the tropical sun of Rio. And Korea's wireless carrier KT unveiled the world's first ever 5th-generation network that connects 2 very different cities halfway across the globe simultaneously. Such efforts, according to the IOC Coordination Commissioner, are necessary to drum up support for the next Olympics.
It's a very professional exhibition here, and you say the new technique is fantastic. And here you have the whole world coming, and they know we have the Summer Games, but PyeongChang is the next one and to come up, and it's very good with this promotion.
While speeding up preparations for the Winter Games with a series of test events lined up this November, PyeongChang Olympic organizers in Rio are embodying the spirit of the Games, at least for now. Shin Se-min, Arirang News, Rio de Janeiro.
These are the stories we're following at this hour. We'll have more updates coming your way at 10 p.m. Korea time, so do tune in then. For now, from all of us here at Arirang News, thank you for watching.